as we went down, that was when I could feel we were going really deep into dark, dark history. And from what I recall, it was religion, it was sacrifice, it was humans, it was children's. It was just a sickly feeling to be channeling down there. Yeah, it was just vile, really, what we were beginning to find in the team.
Is there somebody else here?
The following program has been filmed for your entertainment. Viewers may find some scenes disturbing. Thousands of tourists come to St. Michael's Cave every year, but few of them ever learn of the darker secrets that these natural walls keep. Legends of human sacrifice, terrible duels to the death, and even army soldiers who explored some of the deeper, darker tunnels and were never seen again.
They say that in olden times, the Greeks, the Romans, before venturing off beyond the Pillars of Hercules, would offer sacrifices in the cave. And maybe some of them were even human sacrifices. They also would leave offerings behind. And in later times, during the British occupation, the cave itself was used as a dueling ground. The British troops were forbidden to duel among themselves. But in there, nobody would see you, and they would, arrange these private duels. And it is said that they used to duel up in the cave. In the 1800s, there was also a murder case where they found this body in the cave. They didn't know who the murderer was, but the body was left in the cave and it was found there, bundled up in a corner. Now we go to the Second World War. The only casualty ever, or rather person to have died in the new St. Michael's Cave, happened shortly after the cave was discovered. It was discovered in 1942. His name was Sergeant Cook. Now, about 20 odd years ago, I took a friend of mine and a group, and a few months later I went to his house and he said to his wife, who was Spanish, he says, "Tell Tito what you told me when we went to the cave." I said, what is it? He said, "I saw a bloke with a dog down there, a soldier with a dog." And I said, "Well, why didn't you say anything?" He said, "Well, I thought the cave being military and all that, I thought it was one of the guards or something, a keeper." I said, "Well, you've seen the famous ghost of the chap with the dog." And that was that. Now, about a year or two ago, I took a group of teenagers down the cave. And when we came out, one of them says to this girl, says, "Tell Tito what you've told me." I said, "What's that?" He said, "I saw a dog down there." I said, "You saw a dog down there?" I said, "What's your name?" And she told me her name. They go, "Are you the daughter of so-and-so?" And she says, "Yes." They go, "Well, your mother told you, come on." My mother hasn't told me anything.
We do know that one individual did pass away in the actual St. Michael's Cave. There's reports of somebody walking in many years ago and never actually walking out again. St. Michael's Cave, we know, was found around the times of the Romans. Since then it has had a lot of different type of uses, including prepared to be an old military hospital.
We're not here to change anybody's minds. We're not here to convince anyone. We're here to make a television program, to find answers to questions in a very different way, using technology, using science.
Essentially, the idea is that spirits, when they manifest, when they move things, when they go bump in the night, they are, because they are made of energy, this manipulation of the physical world uses that energy, manipulates the energy, or the energy changes around them. So if you're in the right place at the right time when they are manifesting or trying to speak or trying to make a spirit orb of light, for example, there will be a fluctuation in the electromagnetic field in the area. So these devices really, they're just, that's all they do, they just pick up on these changes. Now these devices will also pick up a microwave, they'll pick up a power socket. You know, electromagnetic energy is everywhere. But what we look for as paranormal investigators is we look for direct changes in the electromagnetic field when we have asked for an effect or we're expecting something. Or for example, in an area where there are no electrical currents, nothing that could disturb the electromagnetic field. So when there is a complete dead electromagnetic field and suddenly there's a spike or a bit of movement, we kind of get the impression that this could be a spirit manifesting, and indeed sometimes these changes in the electromagnetic field come accompanied with a spirit voice that comes through a digital recorder or through the Echovox or a light orb that someone may have picked up on a camera. That one was weird. That one. Shut up. All right.
And when we first set up, I said to Lee, should we just do a little sort of off-camera, little sort of like test thing for the Echovox? And we turned it on, and as soon as we turned the Echovox on, even before anything had actually started, we got some interesting voices. And again, some of the crew actually heard these voices, and they were very negative.
For me, very challenging as a medium, because I had to make sure that the energy that I was channeling, it was safe to do so, and there was lots of souls, there was lots of spirit that were all trying to affect the crew in some way, shape or form.
Over the centuries, people used to come here to duel. We know that much.
To duel?
Yeah, because dueling was illegal.
There's two people that I could get information and channel fully, but initially what I want to do is just get protection and start how we should. So maybe the guys want to ask questions.
We went into Lower St. Michael's Cave, which I'd spotted from the top, and I thought, that's where I want to go. And when we went, that was pretty interesting for me. This is where we began to really, I think, get some solid hits on the Echovox and get the sensations that go through you when a spirit is in the area manifesting and affecting people, and not just Sam, who's quite receptive.
Please help me, please help me, please help me.
But also the rest of us. I myself felt very much on edge during that first place already.
It was meant to be another location, which the arrangements for that collapsed at the very last minute due to health and safety issues. And sometimes I wonder whether these things are meant to be, because St. Michael's Cave didn't disappoint. There was a lot of evidence that suggests that we made some sort of contact with someone from the afterlife. There's a suspicion that at some point in history, Dita was telling me earlier, that
experimentation, I get very strongly.
That this area was used as a discard pit for
Who the hell? Right, let him out. I need to get them out. He's after Lee. He's after Lee. Lee, will you just go with something about you? Now I'm getting it. 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 Am I able to divulge what I picked up last week with Jonathan?
Yes, of course.
To keep that in confidence.
No, by all means.
Okay, well perhaps you explain to Jonathan what I picked up last week, and then it'll make sense as to why you're feeling what you're feeling, and I'll just look at.
Well, this was what we spoke about my history in the past, and I mean I've also at one point in my life turned to Wicca and moved away from the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
I didn't really practice very much, but I got into the religion and identified with it, and it kind of made me feel a little bit freer in my life. But recently I've moved away from that again and gone back to Catholicism with a little more vigor than I did when I was younger, possibly. Perhaps because of what I've experienced over the...
Yeah. So the dark, what I picked up last week about the experience that you'd had, the darker energy, should I say, and I don't like to name it good or bad, the darker energy experiences that you've had in your past with Ouija boards and things like that, that's what I'm picking up here, and that's why Spirit at the moment are attracted to that energy vibration, if that makes any sense. So that's what I was picking up here. So yeah, it's certainly what you're feeling, an awful lot of emotion right now in here.
Well, I
yes.
felt, while you were speaking, I got quiet, but I had a headache, sort of, and then I felt my glasses just lift a little bit while you were channeling, and then you screamed at me.
So yeah.
So,
so what can happen is we're in an area of such density and dark, light and dark, but an area of density.
Have we had any? Have we had any readings on the machines?
No, nothing.
Nothing
It's
at all.
very difficult here, Jonathan, with the water.
It's
and
not
the
easy.
electrics and
It's not exact. The makeup of voices.
I heard Labour. We all heard Labour.
you can see what's happening with me.
Who is here with us? Could you give us a name? Something there.
It's something we'll have to listen back to.
Yes. Do you want us to get out?
Partner?
Butler. I heard butler.
I heard partner.
Butler.
Is your name Butler?
Are you a sailor? Are you a sailor? Butler. Give us a sign, Butler, come on.
I'm hearing some words, but they're coming out quickly.
Sailor.
Did you say sailor?
I think that may have been Sailor. If we could play that back. I can't play that back right now.
And one of the most interesting Echo Box hits was with Tito. We went down into one of the other sections before we went down into the lower caves, and he mentioned Malquart. He just sort of said it at random. There was no set thing, and the Echo Box, as soon as he said it, the Echo Box repeated it exactly as he said it. And it was just one of those moments where the hairs on your arms stand up on end, that, you know, this thing can do that. And that was just a really interesting moment.
Melquart. Melquart.
I heard it.
I repeated. Melcartelia. Melquart was the god of the Phoenicians, and they used to sacrifice their firstborn. Their first baby, male born, was always sacrificed to Melquart. So God knows if they used to do it here.
Yeah.
Because it was the Phoenicians who invented the Pillars of Hercules, the end of the world, and Melcartelia, which is the city we have at the bay.
Of course.
Cartelia, it comes from Melcartelia, Melcartes, their god.
We were listening and feeling the impressions of you know, sacrifice and blood and a lot of anguish coming from this place. And then the word Melquart comes out, which Tito referred to it being an old god, an ancient god, who the firstborn of the tribe would be sacrificed to, the first born male would be sacrificed to. So when we heard that word come through the echo vox out of nowhere, it surprised me to no end.
Melkart.
Melkart.
I heard it.
Repeated.
Melkartelia.
And then it got even worse as we went even further into Lenora's cave itself.
When we descended past the mud and grime down into Leonora's cave, it was fascinating to see all that graffiti on the cave walls. Part of me is sad that a cave millennia old could be defaced like that, but part of me is also intrigued because that graffiti dates back 200 or 300 years. And to think of the people that have gone down there to sign their names on the walls, it's just a universal sign to say we were here, dating back 300 years. And that in itself was a particularly moving experience for me in particular.
Lenora's cave was interesting because not only did we have to do a bit of spelunking, which I wasn't ready for, but also it was a very damp, hot, sticky environment to get into. Definitely not the kind of place I ever thought I'd go to on this show, but it was a pretty interesting experience.
The actual location itself was quite warm and muggy. I did find out a lot of historical facts which I never knew, which we've then been able to semi-verify. We haven't been able to verify completely, but semi-verify. Like the Lenora's cave itself being used as a dueling ground. There's two areas apparently that were used there. One was by where the Lower St. Michael's cave area is, and apparently the other one was where the Lenora's cave is. And either it was not used regularly as a dueling ground, that there was a one-off occasion there, or we don't know, but we're still trying to verify that one.
And in Lenora's cave, not only did we catch voices, we had a conversation with someone in Lenora's cave, and even heard EVPs coming through that did not come out of the echo vox. I particularly, while analyzing some of the data, caught the word Satan coming through. And it was so quiet that you had to amplify the sound exponentially before you could even hear it. So it was no wonder that none of us had heard it.
About 6 degrees.
Over here, I think, 17.
In here.
She was talking about rape and babies being taken from the womb, and the echo vox was actually repeating almost exactly what she was saying. It was coming out with the words rape and child, and it was just really, really strange.
Show me parts being just
Were the babies taken out of the mother's abdomen?
Rape again, that's the second time.
This is the second time that we've heard that word tonight. But we caught some very interesting pieces of evidence on the echo vox.
Are you a relative of mine? There are voices coming through. I can hear them, and they're echoing. I just can't pick them up.
As I'm tuning in, I'm getting this headache here. Do you feel that way again?
Just on the side,
Yeah.
my eyes are tearing as well.
Okay.
Yes, leave me again. Get out.
Out! Move back. As you know, I sometimes get guidance the night before we're due to do the location, and I was aware that there was a lot of history, there was a lot of secrets within the cave.
Hello there. We would like to talk to you guys. Are you guys willing to talk to us?
Frank.
I don't know, he asked me a question and I said yes.
Huh?
Can we ask again, did you follow Lee down? Do you guys want to talk to Jonathan?
There was a word there, there was a voice there. That came through the mic, I'm sure.
Please. What happened to you? You were waiting. Waiting. You were waiting for the boat to come and pick you up, yes?
Safe.
And again, a lot of these weren't Echovox. These were actually proper, genuine EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon. And again, they all correlated to what Sam was saying. What she was picking up, the Echovox was saying. We were picking up voices saying exactly the same thing.
Want to channel my... Want to channel... Do you want to talk through me? And what was interesting was everybody began to be affected in the team, whether it was a headache, whether it was just a subtle physical discomfort, everybody felt that in some way, shape or form.
Rest.
Mark, you're able to still help the people who need to help, but I'm just going to release you now with thanks. And thank you for giving us the information. I'm aware you're not ready to go up to the light, so I respect that from you, Mark. Thank you. You're tired now, yes?
The physical sensations were overwhelming, almost. I couldn't wait to get out.
300 years ago, these tunnels were full of activity. Next week on the Ghost Trail, we'll take to the Northern Defences, where hundreds of men lived and died.